Hi, this is Mike Essen, South Florida's conservative voice. Abortion is a tragedy and a human tragedy that has taken the lives of over 55, 65 million unpreborn children in the womb. And the midterms are coming up and they are crucial. Who better to talk to about this today? It's my honor and privilege to have Sue Liebel, the state director for affairs at SBA Pro-Life America. Sue, welcome to the Mike Essen Show.
Thanks for having me today.
My pleasure. Please tell us about the state of surgical abortion and chemical abortion in America today.
Well, chemical abortion are the pills, the drugs, and surgical abortion is not quite, but almost a thing of the past. So the drugs seem easier, don't they? I could just take a pill or two or something like that. They now account for almost 70% of all abortions being done in America today. Unfortunately, though, the abortion drugs, the pharmaceuticals, have a 4 times greater rate of complications. Women will get sicker faster from using those drugs that seem so much easier, but unfortunately, they're landing women in the hospital. Women are having terrible experiences in their own homes. The safety of their own bathroom or the dorm bathroom ends up looking kind of like a crime scene, and it's really traumatic. It's traumatizing women. Also, there's a new crime that's popping up where a boyfriend or an ex-husband or even an abuser or a trafficker who doesn't want that baby slips those drugs into her drink or her food and coerces her into taking that. Or, surprise, there are 14, 15 cases that we know of right now. Many of them have criminal charges pending.
I'm glad that they're at the criminal charges, not happy they're
Yeah,
using women and children like this.
I know.
Tell us what we can do or what is being done to stop chemical abortion in America.
Well, unfortunately, under President Biden and under the excuse of COVID, the FDA changed its policy, which up until then had been there's actually a black box warning on these drugs, and that a woman should see a doctor. A doctor should rule out pre-existing conditions and things like that, and only under the safest of conditions. But the Biden administration's FDA did away with that so that the pills could be mailed directly to her without bypassing a doctor or any sort of medical oversight. And unfortunately, so far, the Trump administration's FDA has not rescinded that rule. So the mailing is still going on. And this isn't what we saw, in the first Trump administration. It's always been, since the drug was approved in the year 2000, it's always been see a doctor in person to adequately assess, the pregnancy and the gestational age of the baby and any of her pre-existing conditions. So under Biden, things went hog wild, and now these pills are in the mail. And the FDA continues to promise to look at it, says it's looking at it, but the action's a little too slow, too late.
How can we as pro-lifers and as Americans and as citizens, and how can politicians, if they're watching, make it go quicker and maybe make it go much quicker?
Well, actually, a very key thing we can do is with our voting. We need to continue to vote strong pro-life members of Congress, our U.S. senators, and even down to our governors and our state legislators. After Roe versus Wade fell, the Dobbs decision allowed the abortion issue to go back to our elected representatives. In other words, not activist judges, but to the people that we elect. And if we don't like what they're doing, we can elect somebody else. And so the most important thing we can do, especially in these midterms, is to elect pro-life people to represent us in these decisions.
Please tell us about the state of the Republican Party and abortion. I'll get to the Democrats after this.
Okay. All right. Well, we're seeing a lot of members of Congress and especially our U.S. senators starting to stand up and say, hey, something's very wrong here. What can we do at the the legislative branch is different than the executive branch, if you remember back in high school. Very strong U.S. senators are starting to ask questions, get involved, and put some pressure on the FDA to rescind this mailing. We've even done some polling. Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America has polled people believe, even people who are pro-choice, believe that a woman should have to see a doctor to get such extreme medication that not only kills the baby but also could be harmful to her. So the Republican Party unfortunately needs to take concrete action, pro-life action. SBA, we're doing our part to motivate voters in key battleground states, and we just announced that we've hit our 2 millionth door. We've knocked on 2 million doors to talk to voters about the life issue and in their particular state who the candidates are. And we really do voter education to show, here's your incumbent, here's what they voted for, or here's what they didn't, and then here's who's running and here's what they're for. And we're just helping people understand kind of how the candidates each view the abortion issue or the pro-life issue as we would have it. But we know from polling as well that fully 1/3 of Republican voters say that if they thought the Republican Party was backing off of the pro-life or watering down its pro-life stance, they would be less likely to get out and vote in the midterms. And as you know, that's where a lot of big decisions are going to be made in the midterms, and typically it swings the other way. So Republicans are nervous about the midterms, as they should be. But if they are perceived as backing off of the pro-life issue, they may lose up to a third of their base. And so now is not the time. Now's not the time to worry your base. By contrast, if 1% to 2% of pro-lifers had stayed home in 2024, Trump would not have been reelected. So that base is an important segment of the Republican Party, and the party needs to stand much stronger on the life issue. I'm sorry, you were going to ask me something.
I was to say, people are aware. They're aware of these numbers, right? The politicians running and the people in the party big leagues.
They are. They're very aware of the numbers. In fact, we used President Trump's own pollster, to do some of these polls that I'm talking about today. So we know that they're legitimate, they're strong numbers, and we are worried. Marjorie Dannenfelser, the president of Susan B. Anthony, has had op-eds in all of the major papers and all of the Washington insider papers warning the Republican Party, trying to let them know that they're going to need to stiffen up on the life issue and keep its base interested and aware. And that's the message I'm giving today is if we're pro-life and we're a Republican voter at all, we really need to show up. We need to show up and show out. The alternative is that much worse. The Democrat platform on the life issue is extreme and radical. So we don't want that.
That's what I want to get. So now we're getting from the Jedi Knights to the dark side. Tell us about the Democrats and their stance on abortion.
Okay. All right. Well, here's probably the easiest way I can say this. Since Roe versus Wade fell and the Dobbs decision said the states could have more control over regulating abortion in their states, about half the states have regulated in some way that's pro-life, and about half, the other way. Blue states, red states, if you will. Unfortunately, though, this mail order usurps a state. So Texas, for example, my home state of Indiana, abortion is not legal except in, very extreme circumstances. But the pills mail right in there and come right over the top of our state laws. And so it undermines state authority in that way. The Democrat Party, should it be elected, the platform, and all you have to do is go online and Google it and look at their platform this year and in the past. Abortion up until birth, late-term abortion. They want our tax dollars. They want you and me to pay for that for women. And in fact, they've even got a bill that's been in the U.S. Congress. It's no secrets. It's actually been introduced called, get this, it's called the Women's Health Protection Act. But in fact, it's just the opposite because it would allow abortion on demand paid for by taxpayer dollars, and it would undo all state laws. It would come over the top of all the state laws in any state and wipe them out and have, extreme abortion, late-term abortion be the law of the land. Right now, we see that in California or New York or places like that. The congressional Democrats would have that be the law of the land, so it would look like California and New York.
I hope people are watching. Sue, if even if, let's say, the Democrats, God forbid I say it 1,000 times, took both houses of Congress, we still have President Trump in there. How much damage could they do regardless with the filibuster in place?
I'm sorry, would you repeat that about the filibuster?
Now we had, let's say, Democrats, God forbid I say it 1,000 times, took
Sure.
both houses of Congress. We still have President Trump, who's a weak pro-life president at this point. And we have the filibuster in place. How much damage could the Democrats do regardless of Trump and the filibuster?
Well, I definitely think they would try to put that on his desk, and they would, try to override his veto too. So it just it's a scary thing. It's something that's being discussed. Of course, it's been for several years, but there's a stopgap measure to some of this extreme. Whether it's packing the Supreme Court, whether it's the filibuster, whether it's this and that. And that is a vote for common sense, a vote for life, a vote for common sense government.
I'm asking you to play Swami Sue from Hoosier State here and try to make a few predictions.
Okay.
What do you think the Republicans' chances of taking the House are at this point? I know we have a long way to go. What do their chances are?
Well, I do think of late, what's happening in New York, the communists, the socialists, the Marxists, the whateverists, and even John Fetterman and other Democrats, not just him, but other Democrats' comments kind of show us that some of that extreme agenda is really not playing well. I know that's true in some constituencies as well that normally would vote Democrat, maybe are having a second thoughts about that. So I think that I forget who I heard say this yesterday, but it's a difference between common sense and crazy. That's your vote. That's your choice there. So the closer we get to November and the more extreme those positions are, I think voters are starting to pay attention and realize that would be going down a really wild rabbit hole.
I want to remind my voters for a second, Sue, my listeners as well, as how extreme they are. Abolishing the Senate, abolishing the presidency, abolishing prisons, abolishing the police, free abortions, free gender-affirming care,
Right.
No private property. If you want that, vote Democrat. If you don't, vote Republican, as well as the human life issue. And abortion on demand versus saving innocent preborn children in the womb.
I think again, I appreciate your being on your show today. I think as I talk to some of my friends and people that I know, my family, I don't know that our listeners, people really know how extreme it's gotten, thinking that maybe I'm exaggerating, because I'm pro-life, and so I'm exaggerating what I'm saying. But it really is no exaggeration that the Democrat agenda is very extreme on abortion and LGBT and gender transition for minors. All of that stuff is true. Late term abortion up to birth, and they want you to pay for it. And it's really true. It's really happening. Late term abortions really do happen. There are some abortionists in some states that have actually opened a late term abortion clinic to specialize in that. So it's kind of grown up under our noses in the last 15, 20 years, maybe. And some people just don't believe it's really true, but it is. And we're really at a precipice right now. We're really at a crossroads. And I think this election is just for all the marbles.
I agree.
And
Let's
I
talk about the
mean
Senate
Marvel.
now. I like that. Yeah. Let's talk about the Senate now. We have James Talarico versus Ken Paxton in Texas. In my state, we have Alex Vindman in Florida versus Ashley Moody of a close race. You have a lot of toss-ups. How do those look as of now? In Michigan, Charles Rogers. I hope Abdul Saeed doesn't get it, or even his opponents. But how do the toss-ups look, and would you be surprised if Republicans held on to the Senate?
Yeah, I'd be surprised. I think I do think people are going to use common sense, and some of those candidates that you mentioned are just so far out there that I don't think they can hide it much longer, or look like they're moderate when they're really not. I think word's getting out. The people that you mentioned, um, Ashley Moody, Senator Moody,
Ken Paxton.
Senator Kim Paxton, and others as Attorney General, they have been just strong, consistent, solid, common sense leaders on the life issue and many other issues. They don't have wild swings. They don't have, they're just very common sense, very strong leaders, and we appreciate them very much. And anymore, really, what we really do appreciate in the Senate, in the House, people who are strong and consistent and are very clear about their convictions, and have conservative principles, especially on life, and not an extreme agenda like these others.
Tell us some good news back to the pro-life issue on the pro-life front that's going on right now in America.
Well, I'll tell you some really good news, actually. Thanks for asking that,
My
because some of
pleasure.
it can be very bleak and bleary. But two
Mm-hmm.
major polls that were released last summer um, are that the folks that say they're pro-life is in America going up, especially among young people. Young adults are more pro-life than before. So ages 18 to 29, their pro-life uh, cred increased by over 11 points from the
One
last.
second. Yay!
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it really, and support for abortion being legal in all cases and all circumstances dropped by 9 points among those who are young adults. You might have to remember that this is the generation, or maybe the next one, whose first baby picture was an ultrasound picture. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's a they know that that's a baby, right? That's me. It's on the refrigerator. My mom and dad posted it on Facebook. That's me.
Exactly.
And so that is the good news. The good news is the folks that are coming behind us are more pro-life than ever before. And a lot of those young people are volunteering or working for Susan B. Anthony this summer, knocking on doors in the battleground states. We're not done yet. We hope to hit to touch over 10 million voters before November.
Do a 1 to 2 minute case for protecting innocent unborn children from womb to the tomb.
Well, eh, first of all, the U.S. Constitution assures us of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You can't really
Mm-hmm.
have liberty or the pursuit of happiness if you don't get to live. And unfortunately, the other thing that's happening right now is that after Roe versus Wade, the states get to do, get to regulate. We have a patchwork around this country. So now, where you live, like California or New York, can determine whether you live. And
Mm-hmm.
while a woman may be facing an unplanned pregnancy, she may be trying to be pregnant and parent by herself. We need to be wrapping our arms around her, providing the help that she needs to succeed and to thrive. And we can, and we do. There's a lot of help out there with the Pregnancy Care Center Network and other types of services. Our Her Plan program, for example, helps her find and get the care that she needs. And so that is a much healthier, much better option than abortion. Abortion is not a healthy option for women and children.
I want to comment on the state by state issue. I know a lot, even some pro-lifers settle for that. Slavery too was a state by state issue. See how well that worked? If you Rape is not a state by state issue. Killing innocent preborn children in the womb should be a national issue and protected by law.
Mhm. It is a civilized society does not kill its young.
Sue, I thank you so much for coming on the show. I thank you more for for your work at Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America. I want to join that. I want to join, and I want to ask you, before I ask you how I and other people can join or get active, is there anything you want to cover that we haven't talked about?
Uh, well, no, I think we've already talked about just how important it is if you're pro-life to get out and participate in the midterms.
Please tell me how I can join or be active, and how other people can be active. Give out your website and what have you on social media, and
Uh-huh.
you got the mic, Sue.
Well, sure. Thank you. Our website is sbaprolife.org, sbaprolife.org. There are things you can do there. You can take action, get on our alert list, know when to, send a letter to your senator or call your congressman or whatnot, and we help you do that. We keep you up to date on what the hot issues are. And also, if you would like to get involved and knock on doors in a pro in one of the elections that we are supporting in the battleground states, you can also learn how to do that there. The more the merrier. We need to get the word out. We need to help voters understand the extreme situation we're in. The dichotomy between pro life and pro choice is very extreme these days, and the need to protect life and women along with it, by the way, because these pills are harming women. It's more like the chemical coat hanger that they're sending her right now. We need
Mm-hmm.
to get involved. We need to speak up, and we need our elected officials, to see us do that. They need to see how much of a groundswell we have for life.
I love your organization, and I want two more things. I love the Hoosier State, and one more thing: choose life. Sue, thank you so much for
Choose
coming
life.
on the show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.